here with this wonderful story of manna from heaven. But you notice how, like, that's the last line? And it's the whole build-up to get to that. So it creates this wonderful journey that Moses experiences with these people in the desert. And what are they doing mostly? Grumbling, complaining. They are definitely not happy with this journey. Even though they've been told this journey is all about freedom, the journey you're on is all about getting to a promised land. God fulfilling a promise to you. You're on a journey of fulfillment. You will get there. You're not there yet, but you'll get there. And these folks are responding the entire way of this journey by grumbling about it. All the way along. Have you ever noticed when you have a pack of kids, the tireder they get, the more grumbly they get? That's how they're behaving. And are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there? No. And the answer is no. We have a ways to go. And, can't you distract yourself with something? Just distract yourself and stop thinking about that we're not there yet. And one of these things that they're grumbling about is that they're hungry. Can we go over and eat something? They are genuinely hungry, and they weren't really very happy to realize that this journey was going to be also about not having what they were used to in Egypt. In Egypt, at least they had some good beer. Because that's mostly how they were fed. The slaves had beer that was essentially liquid bread. And that's how they got their bread. Their bread was beer. And they're like, just give us some beer. That'll distract us. And Moses is like, God, they want beer. And they're not happy. They're not happy with this journey. What am I going to do? Because they're ready to kill me. And he says, I will give them bread. Okay, I'll take care of it. And can you imagine this whole thing? You're like, yay, God's going to give us bread. And they wake up in the morning with this promise. And it's flakes on the ground. That's not feeling as good as beer. It's not feeling like what they were expecting. And I can imagine when they kind of go, what is that? And they say, that's what you're going to eat. That's what God gave you to eat. I think you're more grumbling. But that's how it ends. We hear, how will they respond to this offer of God's bread as flakes on the ground? At least it's food. But they're probably not necessarily, they have a choice about how they respond. Are they going to be grateful for this food? Or are they going to continue grumbling? Now we go over to this Matthew Gospel. And to set that context in a couple of ways, Matthew, as he's writing, is writing to a community that is struggling with that whole previous identity of Hebrew righteousness. And he's got a lot of grumblers about the fact that he is allowing and encouraging to come into his community a lot of different peoples that are not. So a lot of Gentile communities, a lot of folks who are hearing the same message of good news. And the folks who've been around for a while, like millennia, in their covenant relationship with God. So those Hebrews that are converted to be followers of Jesus in Matthew's community are not happy with the idea that people can come in who aren't Jewish and who aren't going to take the covenant relationship. They're not going to be circumcised. They haven't been a part of keeping the law. They haven't done the hard work. They're not the inheritors of this arduous journey to the promised land. They didn't do anything of that. But they're going to have equal salvation. In the community and body of Christ, everyone will receive the same amount of grace, the same amount of love, the same amount of promise. They need to consider themselves equally righteous. In a society that was very much used to a hierarchy of righteousness. That's gone with Jesus' teaching. All people are beloved in his teaching. And so to these grumblers, we have this parable, the context of the parable. A daily wage that we hear about this in the Lord's Prayer. Notice how in the Lord's Prayer is, give us this day our daily bread. To get bread at all, people had to work that day through. There is no welfare system, there's no social security, there's no good works society, there's no Salvation Army. There is no one to help them if they're unable to work. If someone has a household and the women do not have an available source of income, or don't have a man who's healthy and well-bodied to go out and labor, they're pretty much hosed. They will be depending on people's generosity of giving alms. They will be completely dependent on the whims of others. There's nothing there that's secure. So, because there's no sense of a savings account, no sense of investment for the common person, they need what they're getting today from their labors is what's paying for their tomorrow. Then, with the wages I earn today, I can buy my bread for tomorrow. If I don't work today, I have nothing to feed them tomorrow. And tomorrow is looking pretty bleak. So, we have this landlord. Notice how the whole setup is. The kingdom of heaven is like this landowner. I would expect the kingdom of heaven to be a place. When we think about place a lot, it's up there, it's around. But the kingdom of heaven is like this landowner. And this guy goes out in the morning and he's hiring some of these laborers who want to work so they can make money to have food tomorrow. And he goes out and he has some of them, he says, come into my vineyard and work. But he keeps doing that all day long as he's going out to get people. And then we have this setup that in God's economy, no matter how long you've been in a relationship with God, or how new you are to that, you will have equal amounts of God's love and grace and affection and promise. When I was looking at preparing for today, I was aware that today is also the International Day of Peace, so legislated by the United Nations. Today is actually the 30th anniversary of the International Day of Peace. Why is peace a big deal? They actually researched that. Why it would be more advantageous to be peaceful than to be in a warlike situation and not be peaceful. And they sent the most amazing people to go do that research. The World Bank Organization. And the World Bank Organization went out and studied, based on national and regional economies of all the nations in the world, what the benefits of peace would be on the economy. They also started to look at basic human valuation. What are humans worth, says the World Bank Organization. But they went to an amazing place with that question. They went to a place of understanding a transcendent valuation of human dignity. That human worth, as identified in cultures, had to do with their ability to experience dignity. That when people, wherever they are, in whatever society or nation they are, when they experience themselves as valuable, they do better. It's kind of like, duh. But the World Bank Organization came to that conclusion. So this is why they did, in part, because then the question becomes, how can we help people to feel better about themselves and recognize their value, says the World Bank Organization. How can we respond to that? And in the research they found that when people are able to work, when they are able to see that they have the ability to make their lives better, not relying on something else outside. Nobody, no country that they went and researched said, oh yes, I just want someone to give me stuff. They all found that in their value system, they wanted and desired, as a part of their understanding of their own value and dignity, the ability to provide for themselves. And so, says the World Bank Organization, it is incumbent on the world to make sure that people are able to provide for themselves so that they experience this dignity. And when we do that, they are no longer dependent on others, on other nations, on other pieces of society. When they can do for themselves and do that, and we help them be able to be successful in doing that, we also experience, says the World Bank Organization, greater national peace. People are more satisfied, they are less struggling for resources and therefore in conflict with one another. They begin to appreciate the different role that each nation plays in relationship to another when everyone is focused on powerfully enabling the other to provide for themselves. All down to the dignity of every human being. And that is in our baptismal covenant, to promote the dignity of every human being. Who knew that the World Bank Organization was Episcopalian? This is awesome. When we talk about our daily bread, those people in our world who cannot simply have that are destined to grumble. And in a powerful way, when that grumbling becomes a piece about social justice. Now, when we're children, back to that van and that road trip where we're saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? As kids, do you also remember saying the phrase, that's not fair? Why is it that I have to go to bed so early and all you guys are saying, no, that's not fair? Now, if we stay in that childlike mindset as we get older, then what happens is exactly what this parable is saying. If we still have this egocentric focus about fairness, that's only fair if I get mine, if we focus that way, then we're like the people who are out in the sun all day working. And when generosity is extended to someone next to us, we can feel resentful. Why do you get help? Well, are you in need? Well, no. Well, why don't I get help? Why don't I get that? It's about helping the one who has not, and not about giving more to those who have. So the mature spiritual expression of the awareness of fairness as we get older and mature in our faith becomes a spiritual exercise in the awareness of injustice. And then we begin to say on behalf of others, that's not fair. And we begin to do something about that. And the World Bank Organization will tell you, do your research. Because you will see how when things are not fair, we are a world in strife with one another. We must, as a spiritual charge, be about fairness, genuine fairness. If you had in front of you 2 3x5 cards, and I asked you on one of those cards to write something that you experience as a lack right now, as a lack. And then on the other one I say, hey, write something down for which you feel grateful because you have. You have it. So a lack that you experience and have that you experience in abundance. And if you were to weigh those two cards in your hand, they're going to be the same weight, aren't they, in reality? But spiritually, that experience of lack weighs us down. And if we live from that experience of lack, then we are ball and chain weighed down. And our life is not happy. If we live from the sense of the card of what we have, or what is abundant, or what is a gift, then that is as light as a feather. And our world becomes a sense of gratitude. And God gives us the choice about which one we're going to live from. That sense of lack or that sense of gratitude. Will we grumble incessantly or will we be joyful and thankful? Because, says the World Bank Organization, it makes a big difference. It's the difference between war and peace. May we always choose peace.